Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to bridge the gap between ruthless product constraints and advanced app store marketing to show you exactly how to build a highly profitable app completely from scratch. If you've ever wondered how solo developers manage to not just survive, but actually thrive against massive, well-funded competition, well, you are definitely in the right place. Let's dive in. So we're starting with a pretty high-stakes scenario here. I want you to imagine opening up your balance sheet and seeing this number, -$250,000. Yikes, right? Well, this is the exact situation developer Ivan Sparrow found his company in back in 2024. The meta ads that had rapidly grown their business from $30,000 to $100,000 in sales, they suddenly just stopped converting. They were bleeding cash, frantically shutting down campaigns, and were even at the point of looking for a buyer. This massive existential crisis forced a complete and total pivot away from Meta and straight toward Apple Ads. As Ivan noted, launching Apple Ads is what ultimately saved them, and it really is an incredible turnaround story. By mastering this entirely new channel, they didn't just pay off all that debt within 6 months. They actually managed to scale the business to between $850,000 and $950,000 in annual recurring revenue. That's a real game changer. Here's our roadmap for how they did it. We'll cover building for 5 seconds, surviving with Apple Ads, setting up the 7-in-1 campaign structure, stealing competitor traffic, and finally, getting that creative conversion edge. Okay, part 1, building for 5 seconds, which is really all about the core of product discipline. To truly understand strict product development, we're going to look at the prompt for an app called Sodium Tracker. The sheer discipline of these constraints is exactly what makes an app profitable. Look, if you want to build an app that supports a lifetime paywall without burning all your cash on recurring server costs, you've got to be ruthless. Notice the very first rule here, 100% offline. No backend, no network calls, 0 user accounts. The whole shebang ships right inside the app bundle. It does one specific job, logging sodium. And just as importantly, it strictly avoids any risky medical claims to make absolutely sure it doesn't get rejected by the App Store. This kind of scope discipline, it's the whole point. But the absolutely most critical constraint is what we call the 5-second path. This is the single metric dictating that a user must be able to log a food entry in under 5 seconds. So why does this matter so much? Because that speed dictates whether the app is ever used a second time. Every single screen has to be optimized for this exact path, using quick add horizontal chips, default portions, and instant haptic feedback to guarantee user retention. If a brand new user can't log their meal with one tap from a cold launch, you've already lost them. Moving on to part 2, surviving with Apple Ads and abandoning Meta for high-intent traffic. Once you have that perfectly disciplined product locked in, how do you actually get people to download it? Well, the answer is Apple Ads. But fair warning, a wrong move here will drain your budget in a heartbeat. If you want to survive, you absolutely must avoid the basic account tier. See, in the basic tier, Apple automates your keywords and bids, and frankly, they do it pretty poorly. You're basically flying blind. Instead, you have to use the advanced account. This gives you full manual control over your keywords, your bids, and your targeting. Having that manual control isn't just a nice to have, it's completely mandatory if you ever want to scale profitably. Which brings us to part 3, the 7-in-1 campaign structure. Let's organize this marketing engine. So the biggest headache with Apple Ads is that 95% of keywords end up getting 0 spend. The standard advice out there tells you to run a basic 4-in-1 setup, but Ivan's 7-in-1 playbook entirely solves this 0 spend problem. Check out those bottom 3 tiers. He takes proven, highly profitable keywords and pulls them out into a top campaign, which lets him manually scale them up without any algorithm getting in the way. Then, he uses a proxy campaign to safely test newly discovered keywords so they don't pollute his main generic campaigns. And finally, he silos all of Apple's automated recommendations into a RICO campaign to test them strictly based on the data. The beauty here is that each keyword lives in only one place, meaning you are never bidding against yourself. But where should you actually run these campaigns? Listen up, because this is a massive takeaway. Do not start in the US market. I repeat, skip the US at first. It is totally overcrowded and insanely expensive. When you're just starting to finance the structure, avoid Tier 1 markets completely. Instead, you want to target the highly profitable second-tier European markets. We're talking countries like Croatia, Estonia, Poland, and Slovenia. You can scoop up your first wins super cheaply in these areas, generating a really high return on ad spend to help fund your expansion later on. All right, part 4, stealing competitor traffic. Welcome to the Clone Wars. We're looking at one of the most aggressive yet undeniably effective marketing tactics on the platform, capturing the search traffic generated by your massive competitors. Think about an app like Cal AI, which is pulling in over $3 million a month, heavily driven by big influencer campaigns that pump up their brand search volume. Now compare that to its competitor, Cal's. Notice the similarities? The icon, the colors, the naming, it's almost identical. Everyday users cannot easily tell them apart, and this proves exactly why bidding on a rival's brand keywords works so well. Cal's actively bids on queries for Cal AI, and they earn an estimated $200,000 a month just by capturing their rival's high-intent, hard-earned traffic. Crazy, right? And the thing is, this tactic is so incredibly effective at capturing a competitor's organic brand traffic that the market just keeps adapting to it. Take a look at Calzan AI. Guys, there is literally a clone of the clone out there, pulling in up to $50,000 a month just sitting securely in that search slipstream. The lesson here is pretty clear. If you aren't playing defense on your own brand keywords and offense on your competitors, you're leaving a massive amount of money on the table. Which leads us perfectly into part 5, the creative conversion edge, or how to win the tap. Okay, so let's say you have the disciplined product, you've got the targeted campaigns, and you have the smart bidding structure. That's great. But here is the harsh truth about Apple ads. You can have the absolute best keyword structure in the entire world, but ads only win the tap. It's the App Store product page that actually gets the install. In Apple ads, your product page is your creative. Those first 2 screenshots a user sees in the search results, they have to instantly communicate the user's desired outcome. Not the features, the outcome. Because if those images don't sell the solution in the 2 to 3 seconds it takes someone to make a decision, you are just going to burn your money on empty taps. Now, as your app grows and you eventually pair your search ads with organic influencer marketing to drive even more brand awareness, I want you to remember this fantastic piece of advice from Daniel Dalwin. He says, make the app a moment inside the video, not the subject of it. It's absolutely crucial that you integrate your app seamlessly into a creator's existing format. You have to mirror their natural tone and pace rather than just forcing a stiff, boring commercial down the viewer's throat. Well, we've certainly covered a lot of ground today, from enforcing those ruthless offline constraints to guarantee your app is actually profitable, to escaping algorithmic traps, all the way to structuring a 7-in-1 Apple Ads engine that effortlessly scoops up competitor traffic. You now possess the ultimate bootstrapper's blueprint for surviving and thriving in the App Store. So I'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. Is your app built to survive the search?